is the Stagger Podcast.
Those guys are idiots.
Welcome into the Stagger Podcast. I am JD Smith. He is Derrick Smith. And oh man, we had a good weekend watching the race cars filtering through the cacti, didn't we, Derrick?
Absolutely. And on the dirt track at the Rev down in Monroe, Louisiana with the World of Outlaws. And not to mention those hoity-toity gentlemen over there in Formula One.
They were testing.
Sessions.
They were,
yeah. They were testing this weekend, and we got a lot of close-ups on a lot of random parts sticking off the car that they were all excited about. I'm just excited that we're watching race cars.
We're fully in it, man. There was tons of like short track stuff this weekend. There was all kinds, like all across whatever you're into. I think NHRA was going on in Gainesville. Like everyone's getting going.
Was it Pro Mods? There's a crazy crash. A guy came across his lane into another car, a collision wreck at a drag race.
Yeah, man, you don't see it every day.
That was insane.
Yeah.
We have an uncle who drag races locally in the NHRA circuit, and it's pretty crazy that you don't usually see contact wrecks in that side of the discipline of the sport. But
shout out to Gary Varney rocking his Thunderbird out there.
Gary Varney,
our guy,
getting it done.
Cousin Gary,
cousin Gary.
Been doing it for years. Yeah, for sure, man. We have tons of respect for the drag racing people. Just don't know much about it. It's not our deal.
We just don't know much about it. And quite honestly, we don't want to pretend like we do.
Yeah. But we'll
go out and watch racing anytime.
Absolutely. I actually do want to go to an NHRA event. I've never been to one, but we got to do it. Here's what we're going to talk about today on the show. We have got plenty of Phoenix discussion for you. MTJ getting it done in the Cup Series. We'll talk about a lot of stuff from that race. We will talk some Xfinity as well. IndyCar, the driver list seems pretty much set. So we'll run down who's where and get you ready. We're about a month away from IndyCar, so it's time to start. As we said, everybody else is running. IndyCar's not quite there yet. This would have been their starting weekend, or right around this time would have been their start, but that's okay. We'll get you previewed on where they are. Also, a husband and wife going to run in the Truck Series, and believe it or not, it's not the first time it's happened in NASCAR history, and it's not even close to being like, well, okay, is it the second time? No, there's been like 50-plus races where this has happened, so we'll discuss that. And the best racing on the planet right now might just be in the World of Outlaws. All of that and more coming up on the show today. So let's get into it, because we got to get to everything this week. Next week, you got Sebring, you got Atlanta. I am excited about those tracks for the IMSA series. Glad to see IMSA getting back. So yeah, we are excited about all of it coming up, man.
The Southeast is where it's happening next week.
I tell you, man. I don't think I'm going to do it, but I had looked at getting tickets to go down to Atlanta seriously, because the kids were, they want to go to a race. They haven't been to one in over a year. My oldest two girls love going to these races, and I thought, let's go to a doubleheader. Let's go to the Truck Series and Xfinity Saturday at Atlanta. I thought that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Still may do it. I don't think I will, but maybe I'll change my mind. I'm looking at the weather, all these other things. But when I called them, they said, we've got tickets available for you in Upper Earnhardt, I think, is one of the sections. They're all named after, former champions. And then the other tickets I was looking at were in Lower Johnson. So that's
oh man.
I don't know if I can go Lower Johnson or Upper Johnson. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know if it'd be better if it was Lower Jimmy or Upper Jimmy. I'm not really too sure about all that, but
I mean, that all just sounds just, the same. Yeah, it's not.
It doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound right.
I don't know, maybe the Lower Legend.
Yeah, or maybe lower.
You can say lower anything.
Yeah,
pretty much. I mean,
it's not good. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's just not the.
It's not the same. I agree with you.
Just call it the Petty Tower, the Johnson Tower.
Sure,
well, that one's not any better. But
all right, well let's get off Johnson. All right, no, there's no way to do this. Let's just move on to Phoenix. Let's talk about what happened at Phoenix. Okay, in the Cup Series, MTJ is your winner. He was pretty dominant all day as far as his car being really good. And that was after he smacked the wall. Well, scraped the wall. I shouldn't say smacked it. Early on in the race. But his car was really dialed in. He was good all day. And Martin Truex Jr., especially on those long runs, I didn't think he was going to, be able to get it done, given that they only had like 25 laps, 28 laps when they had the final caution, or what ended up being the final caution. So it turned out it didn't matter. He found a way on the restart, got past Joey Logano, and he was off and gone. So that's his first win of the season. after only having one win last year. Could MTJ be back as one of the title contenders, Derek? What do you think?
I think he's one of my drivers that it's not that I don't respect him. I do. I just don't ever value him as a threat for a championship. Even though he's won one, right?
Right.
Even though he's with Joe Gibbs, which is a powerhouse organization, I just don't look at him as, when I think of Martin Truex Jr., I don't think perennial threat for champion. I just look at him as a good driver, and he has the tool sets to rattle off 5-6 wins a year, win a championship, be in that Final Four, and be on the last step, or the top step, I should say, at the end of the season. And he proved that today with the way he drove. His team was flawless, and he muscled out a win today at Phoenix. But he's one of those drivers that I always have to remind myself, man, Martin Truex is super good. Like, Logano and Keselowski are always top 10. Hamlin's always top 10. Chase is starting to get that way, but he's had a little slow start to the season. But Truex is one of those guys that's also there, always top 10, pretty much. So
yeah.
He's a threat for sure for the championship, and it's kind of nice, can I just say, to see one of the big dogs getting on the win. But because I mean, if you walked out there today, I mean, I'd be sitting here doing this podcast drunk and naked if Bubba Wallace had pulled off the win from the last restart there.
Yeah,
or one of the last restarts, I should say. But if that was the case, I mean, it's just nice though to see. Okay, like, we can have some consistency of, like, okay, we know Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr. These guys are going to start rattling off wins. Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski.
Right.
That's going to also be nice for fans like myself who like drivers that are in that 16th, 15th, 14th ranking. You're hoping that they don't get pushed out by the Michael McDowells of the world, collecting more wins. So it's good for the sport, I think, to see Martin Truex Jr. get the win today is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's well-deserved. Well-deserved.
Well, and I think it's interesting because we talked a few weeks ago in your absence I talked about power ranking, like the Ford teams, and I'm not always a huge fan of power rankings. I know some places they do it every week, and good for them. But like, if we were to, before this weekend, power rank the Gibbs cars, I would have probably had Denny Hamlin 1 and Christopher Bell 2. Just because Christopher Bell's won a race, and then MTJ 3rd, and Kyle Busch would have been probably back and forth, and still would be right now, which is a whole nother story. It's going on 2 years now of this. I mean, last year obviously it was terrible, and this year same deal. But I'm just saying, with Truex, this year, I would have also kind of been down on him a little bit at first, given how the season kind of started off. But he's been consistent. He's been right up there. He's just quiet. He's kind of been like Kevin Harvick doing it, where Harvick's been up there and rolling off top 5s, top 6s, and we're not really talking much about him. And then he'll pop up and win a race, and we'll be like, oh, yeah, Kevin Harvick's like right there in the top 3, like he usually is. And MTJ right now is top of the heap and got the win, but it was certainly not – I'm saying I was probably wrong in how I was power ranking those guys, because MTJ has been just as good as anybody to start the season, and now he's got a win to back that up.
Yep, absolutely, man. It's one of those things that I just think that Joe Gibbs Racing is going to be the team to beat this year. They've already, I mean, not just saying that because they have the 2 wins already, but Denny Hamlin to me is the championship favorite. I can't even remember if I picked him. I think I did to win the championship. But Kyle Busch is going to turn it on at some point, or I mean, the worst place to be in NASCAR, I think, not the worst place, but the most pressure-filled place to be in NASCAR is the 4th seat at Gibbs, because they don't hold on to people that long. If you're in that 4th spot for 2 seasons in a row, like Eric Jones was, see ya. You're gone.
But that's a little different when you got a couple. I mean, Truex and Kyle Busch are both champions. I mean, that's also a tough. I think that's a little different than Eric Jones, who really never. I would think Joe Gibbs might reward performance previously based on that, as opposed to, well, you never won a championship for me. You were the young driver. I think Christopher Bell obviously benefits greatly from, getting that win early on this season to now, especially because they can focus in.
There's this young man named Ty Gibbs that is lighting the world on fire.
Well, we will be talking more about young Ty Gibbs,
but I mean,
for sure he's been great.
That's what I'm saying, is that you have Coach Gibbs, who is used to next man up. He hasn't.
But I'm saying, I think this is a little different, right? Denny Hamlin, has clearly been as good as anyone over the last 3 years in NASCAR, right? Okay,
yes.
so he's clearly established. Safe. He's safe. Yes, right. Yep. Kyle Busch is a former champion, and he's not having the performance right now, but you can't think
he is
that's
the most recent
unlikely.
champion on that team.
Sure. And then you got MTJ, who is just won a race. And Christopher Bell has also just won this season. So
right, but
I don't think anybody's in danger right now is what I'm telling you. I think those seats are all good this year.
Yes, those 4 seats will be the same for the next year. I'm simply stating that come 2022, in June of 2022, which we're like 14 months away from that, there will be someone that is going to start being on the outside looking in at Gibbs.
Well, we'll get there when we get to June of 2022.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying, like, I think that to me, like, even with like just knowing Gibbs's track record, it's either going to be Bell or it's going to be Truex, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, couldn't we do that with every team? Couldn't we be like, well, Penske in 3 years will Joey Logano still be? It's like we could do that with everybody.
That's the thing with Penske. Joey Logano, he's the guy. With Hendrick, Chase is the guy. I'm just saying.
But I would think right now, all those guys with Gibbs, Kyle Busch is the only one that you'd feel like this year the performance hasn't been there. Well, 18 months has been there, but he's Kyle effing Busch. I mean, I don't think he's in any danger.
They don't say he's Denny F and Hamlin. They don't say he's
it doesn't need to be there,
Eric
right?
F and Almirola. They don't say that.
Don't put Eric Almirola in with all these other guys. Come on, what are you doing? No offense to Mr. Smithfield Bacon. I just can't. I can't get there yet. He's not in that class, no doubt. One other thing MTJ said was he said
Michael bleeping McDowell.
Okay,
Michael frickin' McDowell.
Michael frickin' McDowell. That's what we got.
We gotta make it safe.
Michael frickin' McDowell and William Byron. Billy Gosh
darn it McDowell.
That's right. The practice and qualifying for fans. MTJ had a statement about that after in the post race where he said, we're glad to see all the fans. We hope we see more of you guys. We miss having practice and qualifying, which I haven't heard really much of the NASCAR guys talk about from the standpoint of for the fans. Like I've heard plenty of guys complain for themselves. Like I wish we had practice. I need it. We just talked to Quinn Houff last week, how he said it would be much better if they had practice for younger guys like him who are still learning some of these tracks and learning how to drive with these cars at these tracks. But put that up as a question on our Twitter, not knowing MTJ was going to say that, of course, this week. Do you miss NASCAR practice and qualifying? 61.8% of you said yep. 38.2% said nope. And I actually am surprised it was that high, that we had a third of people who responded, more than a third, say, yeah, I don't really care. I don't need to watch it. I will say this. I think, like, for me as a fan, it's one of the more underrated ways to like sneak in and watch all this stuff and not have to pay a ton of money, especially when you have kids or if you got people that are in your life that are just like there for the party, not so much there for the racing. Like go to the truck race, go to the Xfinity race on the day they're going to have practice and qualifying when they did those things, and they'll do them some races this year. That's what I would say is those weekends like at Road America, go up and watch the Xfinity Series. I think they're going there. Either them or the Trucks One are going there. But, go there and watch that race, get to see an actual race, and then watch the Cup guys running laps, and you'll get to see all your favorite drivers out there. You get all the pictures you want of all that stuff, and you get to experience what those Cup cars are like in real life. But then you don't have to deal with all the extra crowd you're going to have on the Sunday. You don't have to deal with all the extra ticket prices you're going to have. And if you're taking kids or if you're taking friends who are just in it for the party, that's really not a bad way to do it.
No, it's not. And that's why I think it's beneficial to have the practices and have the qualifying and have these ways. I remember going to Kentucky with my pregnant wife because we were in Cincinnati for the weekend for something. I said, hey, they're running Kentucky. Let's just go and see if we can find a way to watch the race or watch the practice. Yeah. And it was Xfinity practice because Travis Pastrana was riding that year.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And we just walked around, talked to enough people, and said, "Hey, do you got tickets to the practice?" And sure enough, someone was like, "Oh yeah, I got extra tickets. You want to go? We're just going to drink beers out here in the parking lot."
Yeah, right.
So we went down, saw all the merchandise. We parked for free. Went loaded up on some merch.
You're so right about that.
We watched Cup practice and Xfinity qualifying for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was no one in the stands really.
All right, so let's look at the rest of the top 10 here. Like we said, Martin Truex Jr. got the win. Joey Logano was second. Denny Hamlin third. Brad Keselowski fourth. Chase Elliott fifth. Harvick sixth. Larson seventh. Bill Byron eighth. Christopher Bell number 9. And Ryan Blaney with the top 10. So starting to build some speed back into those cars. All those guys, by the way, that are in the top 10, I don't think that's the exact order, but they're all also top 10 in points right now. So this is starting to show up a little bit as to, these consistent finishes. Now that we got a few, Vegas, Homestead, Phoenix, these are tracks where it's not going to be lucky that you're running top 10 at those places. And a guy we haven't talked, I shouldn't say we haven't talked about him. We haven't talked about him as much as I thought we would. Bubba Wallace today, for much of the day, had a top 10 car and was running really well at Phoenix. He is pretty good at short tracks. And I do think that's something that with better equipment, which he's definitely in now, I would not be surprised to see him running more top 10, top 15 the rest of the way. I do think he's going to have to start being a consistent top 10 finisher to have a chance to make a spot in the playoffs. He's not there right now. But what did you think about his, drive for most of the day? And then we could talk about the pit strategy that screwed him over at the end.
Yeah, well, his drive was something I was pretty excited to see, and as being a fan, and I was pumped to see him with 46 to go or whatever stay out, which I thought was a prudent move because he came in.
He had 7 laps on his tires, which is a decent amount, but it's not like having 50 laps on your tires.
He had been out longer than anyone else. He was cycling up to where he was in the lead coming in. So he was like the last batch of lead lap cars getting their tires. So he had the freshest tires of the guys that just had pitted.
Yeah.
So a bold move. And the idea is that, cautions breed cautions. So if you had a chance to where you go 3 laps and boom, there was a wreck, there's a chance that you could be 6th or 8th coming in and getting 4 fresh tires, and boom, now you got a chance to get a top 5 finish.
Right.
I think it was a bold move. Where it went wrong was the lane choice. I think
I'm with you. I don't know why they chose the inside.
His spotter, someone chose wrong there. That was the bad move to be on the bottom, because you're at Phoenix, you're going to get 3 cars below you, and that's I think what happened there. Is he at least had 1 or 2 cars going south of him. It put him right in the middle. So that's something that I was disappointed about. But also, too, once you get shuffled back in there, I mean, you're on older tires and you're running top 15. I mean, to me, it's a bold move, and I like bold moves, and they just didn't pay out. So
yeah, it was
so good. This whole
I'll tell you what, though, that whole thing about the caution,
this whole year that he's in a place where it's a long-term plan for Bubba Wallace. So I'm just happy that he's there. Honestly, this year, everything else is gravy, but it was pretty cool to see that 23 car running top on the pylon today. And I just hoped it would have resulted in a top 5, but it didn't. And we move on.
Well, but the caution strategy actually did happen, because if he had chosen the right lane, I don't know what happens there, right? Because you saw guys choose that top lane, and it still didn't work out for him. So. But in either case, if he stays up top, there's a chance that he hooks up quicker. Maybe he's in the top 5. And then when they did have that caution, right, guys all came in, and he could have maybe come out, slightly better than he did. He ended up finishing 16th because he went back to like 15th. And then the caution came out, and then he came out about 15th or 16th, and that's where he was the rest of the day. So,
yeah.
And there was only like 20 laps to go when that happened. So, it really, if he'd have stuck with it, or if he'd have gotten in the right lane, who knows? Who knows how it would have played out? But that's one that certainly I'm guessing they wish they had back. Let's talk about some of the other guys who had to drop back. Larson had to go back in the field, right? I think they failed inspection. I believe Chase did too. In either case, they both got speeding penalties. So multiple times for those guys having to pass a ton of cars. That's where I say they had a lot of speed. So what do you think out of this, looking at the championship run in November, right, when they're going to have the Final Four here, it's the championship race. Larson was fast. Chase Elliott was fast. You expect those guys will have a good shot in the playoffs and possibly be in that Final Four. Obviously, Chase, the defending champion. Penske cars were fast here. Denny Hamlin was fast here. Obviously, we spoke about MTJ. Who else did you see that maybe has a chance with the speed they had in the cars? Is there anyone else you can think of?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's going to be, honestly, for the championship, but I like the speed out of Bubba Wallace. I like the speed at the beginning of the day out of Eric Jones. I mean, if you're looking for guys that are outside that top 10, who's going to be fast there? I think Eric Jones he was turning my head a little bit with the top 10 speed that he had. But if you're talking like contenders, I think to me, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, they were always up in that mix top 5 most of the day. Kevin Harvick was sneaking around there in the top 6, ended up getting a 6th place finish there. But Larson was the one that, if we're not careful, Larson's going to be the championship.
Oh, he's got a real good shot at it, man. He is obviously, we know how talented he is as a driver. We know what kind of equipment they are in. So yes,
he's super, like, he's fun to watch. I mean, he got sideways a couple times, just no problem.
Yeah. Bubba got him, nipped him pretty good going on the high side and took the air off.
Took his air off him. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Took the air off his spoiler, and that caused him to start to go around, and he saved it. But yeah, man, good driver there. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Xfinity race. That was the Call 811 Before You Dig 200, presented by Arizona 811. Good Lord, these names. Whatever.
Hang on, another car just hit the wall. Hold on a second, we got to check and see who did that.
Well, welcome to the Xfinity Series, man. And by the way, I like it. I don't like every wreck happening, but the Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, you got to learn, and those are very different to drive than the Cup cars. And at least the Xfinity Series, a lot of times there's less downforce on those cars. There's less of the tricks they can do to them. So I'm with it. I'm good with it, man. Like it's kind of fun to watch.
Another driver that has given a double bird to Santino Ferrucci. So there's that.
Shout out
We've
to
seen those plenty of times at Mid Ohio and other race car or sports car courses around the country, and now we're seeing him
in IndyCar. And when he was in Formula One and he wrecked his teammates. I mean, Santino Ferrucci, if you're not familiar with his history, look it up. He's kind of pissed off a lot of people in his time. So no shock that Josh Berry, driving the Junior Motorsports ride, longtime late model guy who Junior's given a shot to. He only gets, I think, 10 or 12 races in that car this year. 12. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, you can't blame him, right? He was having a solid run, really fast, as good as he's been in that car, and he gets taken out by Santino Ferrucci, and that's, at least in his mind, he got taken out, and he didn't feel good about it. So that led to the double birds, but it was not like subtle. It was Tony Stewart levels of FU. It was high on the FU charts. So it wasn't throwing a helmet, but I don't blame him for being mad. So anyway.
Yeah.
Santino Ferrucci got him there.
You spend your whole life getting this opportunity. Your whole life running circle tracks around the Southeast to get 12 chances at the Xfinity Series.
With Dale Earnhardt Jr. being the guy writing the checks. I mean, it's it's a big shot here.
Yeah, and he's trying to be the next Ryan Preece. I mean, straight up, he's trying to be the next short track ace that gets into the Cup Series. Mm-hmm. So for him to do that, there's not really seats open in that path that Preece had. I mean, he's going to have to go essentially and unseat someone, and he's not going to be able to unseat a driver or even get a full-time ride at JRM. He's not going to be able to do that without getting sponsors or beating out a JRM full-time driver of Gragson or Allgaier. So with that being the case, I mean, the pressure's on for him, and that's why you saw him blow up, is because this is one of 12.
Can't blame him. Can't blame him at all. It's a tough deal for him. So we hope that he gets a couple more chances and can do, something with those. I know he was doing something with it this time, and unfortunately it just ended up that he was on the wrong side of a bad accident. So there you go. Let's talk about the guy at the top of the heap. No surprise, Austin Cendrick gets the W. Of course, the class of the field last year, he's right back where he started this year. He's been rolling off wins, and yet again, Austin Cendrick gets it done. The story for me out of this race is that number 2 car, actually the number 54 car that finished second. That would be Ty Gibbs. 2 races, an average finish of 1.5. That's
and he won he won the ARCA race the other night too there at Phoenix, right?
Yes, he did. Yes. He had a billion restarts, but he got the best of them on about every one of them. So
and I keep thinking that this is a guy who is there strictly because his last name is Gibbs. I mean, I don't mean to say that.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's natural for people to think of that. Well, but like we talked about before, and I'll bring it up again, right? Like Austin Cendrick's there because his last name's Cendrick. I mean, Tim Cendrick, his dad runs Penske Racing. At some point, Austin Cendrick is just really bleeping good. And I don't mean any disrespect to the guy I'm about to bring up here. I know he just posted a thing about this, and we totally are in support of people who are dealing with mental health issues and frustration and anger, and it's a tough deal being in this sport. But look at Ty Dillon. That guy is right now at a point where he is struggling to hang on to his Xfinity gig, and he wants to still be a race car driver. He is the grandson of one of the biggest names in NASCAR, Richard Childress, So this idea that just because you're someone famous's grandson, you're going to be in really good equipment. Well, yeah, you're going to be in it, but you have to make the most of those opportunities. And, Ty Gibbs has been in some pretty good situations, but hasn't been able to, or not Ty Gibbs, sorry, Ty Dillon has been in some pretty good situations and just hasn't been able, for whatever reason, to make the most of them. I'm not trying to hammer him. I'm just saying there are guys who have had good equipment, who didn't get to always deliver. And Ty Gibbs is in this situation, and in 2 races, he's been about as good as anyone on the track, not named Austin Cendrick, who's the NASCAR Xfinity Series defending champion. So outside of the defending champion, he's pretty good.
And he already has the Cup Series ride locked down for 2022. I mean...
Cendrick does, yes, right.
Cendrick
I was going to say, I thought we were breaking news on Ty Gibbs. Yeah, right.
Ty Gibbs? I'm just teasing.
Not yet, but I'll tell you what, Ty Gibbs will for sure be running. I don't know if they're going to put him in trucks or Xfinity, but hell, man, he's as good as anybody right now running in Xfinity, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
As far as he went to a weird short track in Phoenix and figured it out real quick there. And he went to the Daytona road course and figured that out.
And what is NASCAR going to?
What are we talking about?
They're going to short tracks and road course racing. That's a
huge part. Yes, that's a huge part of what you got to do.
Is completely not a cookie cutter, but that's their bulk of their schedule is going to be short tracks and road courses. So if a guy like Kyle Busch or a guy like Martin Truex Jr. or a guy like Christopher Bell can't hang there, where does Gibbs? I still think Denny Hamlin is the king over there. Unless
don't worry, it's not time to talk about that, but it is time to talk about he's going to be running Xfinity Series probably next year, or the year after.
Yeah,
for sure. I'm saying full time, competing for the championship.
With all due respect to Daniel Hemrick, if you're Joe Gibbs and you're looking at the results,
do you
say Daniel Hemrick? Maybe Daniel Hemrick can stay and bring the money to stay there, but do you say, okay, that 18 car has Ty Gibbs written all over it?
Yeah,
I think it does.
Sure, sure. I think that's fair. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on there. Also, let's run down real quick the rest of the top 10. How about this guy, Brandon Brown, getting a 3rd place finish in that 68 car? Excellent. Best finish for him in the Xfinity Series. Congrats to him. That's an awesome drive. Very happy for that guy and that team. Riley Herbst was 4th. AJ Allmendinger got a top 5 out of it. Jeb Burton, also in the College car, was 6th. Bailey Curry, 7th. Justin Allgaier, 8th. Brett Moffitt, 9th. For a Truck Series alum, and Jeremy Clements rounding out the top 10. Some really good names there, right? These are not the
guys that
Harrison Burtons and Myatt Snyders and guys in a little bit better equipment. Some of those guys, Daniel Hemrick, like you said, these are guys that have been fighting for it for years, some of them, and they're getting up there and getting top 10. That's very cool.
Yeah, Brandon Brown, Jeremy Clements, those are 2 family-owned teams pretty much that are really going to enjoy that check and that notoriety of top 10 at Phoenix. So, it's a long haul to go out that far. And when you come out of the day with the top 10, makes it all that better.
Absolutely. Yeah. So really cool finish for them.
Yeah. And one thing I like about the Xfinity race, I like Daniel Suarez in the booth.
Oh, dude. Yeah. I meant to bring that up. Daniel Suarez was really good in the booth. Him and Joey, I thought together were pretty fun. There was something about, they said, what was the thing where he did a segment in Spanish, or he called a couple laps in Spanish, and then somebody had posted that they fell in love with hearing him just speak Spanish on the NASCAR broadcast, and they had a heart emoji or a heart eyes, googly eyes emoji, and then Logano had a line that was like, yeah, I get an emoji too, but it's usually just a finger up in the air in my emojis. That's the only one I get is the middle finger one, and I thought they had a good little chemistry going there. I thought that was pretty cool.
No, I think that's the constant in this conversation is Joey Logano.
Joey Logano's been good in the booth.
Compare him with anybody, and he's
been all right. You know what? I think he does a pretty good job. Now he gets a little technical, which some people may not like, but he doesn't beat around all that and say well, guys, if you've never heard of this, there's a thing called drafting. No, he just kind of does it in his own way where he's just like, oh, yeah, a guy took the air off him on the back there. And if, you come around on the right side, take the air off him, he's just not going to turn. Like, all right, cool. I kind of like that. I mean, I don't know if you need to call Daniel Suarez your amigo every 5 minutes, but other than that, I thought that was a little goofy. But other than that, all right, I like it. You're right, though. Joey Logano, good in the booth. He's done actually a really good job in the booth. And say what you will about him on the track. Off the track as a announcer, I don't mind him at all.
Yeah, the only better combination at Phoenix would have been Michael McDowell and Daniel Suarez.
Yeah.
That would have been fun.
Yeah. By the way, I meant to bring this up when we were talking about the Cup Series. Did you catch the Jeff Gordon, Clint Boyer, let's have some beers and talk it out about our trip to Phoenix where we, fought each other in that race? Did you see that?
No, I
don't know.
So our dog is switching dog food, and I'm taking her out quite a bit.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. Well, if you get a chance, go look it up. I'll try to find it and tweet it out from the Stagger account at Stagger Podcast on Twitter. But that video, it's there. It's like 3 minutes of them reliving that. And then they, for some reason, had Jamie McMurray and Larry Mack wearing fire suits to represent those guys. So it's like a drunk history takeoff where they're talking about their own history. They're drunk. And then they had other people lip syncing some of what they said. I don't know. It felt weird. And then at one point, you got like Jeff Gordon, like, I've always loved you, man. And Clint Boyer's like, what? Get the out of here. Like, what do you mean you've always loved? What are you talking about? Like, it was very weird. I mean, I guess some people would find that endearing. I found it a little weird, but either way.
Yeah,
go check it out.
The F in Fox is for forced. So, I mean,
a little bit sometimes. It is a little bit. I agree with you on that.
Over the top and exaggerated. Fox.
All right. We're going to, just like Josh Berry to Santino Ferrucci, we're going to flip the double bird to this segment, and we're going to move on to something else because we have got IndyCar to talk about. Seems like the driver's list is set. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about a husband and wife tandem racing together in the next few weeks. That'll be kind of cool. And the World of Outlaws, got to get into it because they've been awesome. We'll do all that next. You are listening to the Stagger Podcast. Welcome back to the Stagger Podcast. Let's talk IndyCar because we're about a month away from them getting the start. They are not starting in Long Beach or Tampa, or not Long Beach. St. Pete is where they usually start, right? Tampa, St. Pete.
Yep.
Anyway, they're not doing that this year. They're starting at Barber Motorsports Park down in Birmingham or Leeds, Alabama. That'll be on April, I think 18th is that. Mm-hmm. So like I said, we're about a month away from that. But we're starting to get a solidified group of drivers here put together, which I'm excited to hear because we love the IndyCar circuit here. We love talking IndyCar. We didn't get to do a bunch of it. I've actually been watching. I watched the Scott Dixon documentary that's on Netflix, which I didn't even realize was a thing. But if you've not watched that before, go check that out because they actually have him. They were doing this documentary when he wrecked at Indy a few years ago and ended up like 2 inches from landing on his head on the inside retaining wall. And so just seeing like his wife and his kids and everybody kind of reacting to that, it really puts it into perspective just how much these guys go through. And then also how he was just like, but yeah, I'm going to keep racing because this is all I do. And his wife's very supportive of that. Anyway, we love Scott Dixon. He's a great driver. So if you ever want to see what one of the, like imagine if they had followed AJ Foyt in his prime. That's, you know what I mean? Like that's where I put Scott Dixon. He is, you said that last year and I kind of poo-pooed you, but I understand it now more. Like Scott Dixon hasn't done all the other disciplines like AJ Foyt did, but he's done quite a bit, right? In road racing and IMSA and all that. And obviously the IndyCar, I mean, it's hard to see anyone touching his record when he's all said and done.
Scott Badass Dixon, man.
Not everyone is going to get a middle something as their nickname. We're not going to have like Kyle F. and Busch everywhere. We can't do that.
Scott Badass Dixon, Mr. Mid-Ohio.
Yeah,
that's what we'll call him.
For that, for sure.
He is Mr. Mid-Ohio.
Let's talk about, here are the team lineups as we have it right now. There are 20 confirmed full-time drivers for the IndyCar Series this year. Here we go. We'll run through them. AJ Foyt, they've got 2 of them. Number 4 car, they're running Chevrolets this year. Dalton Kellett in the number 4. Number 14 is Sebastian Bourdais. Then you've got Andretti Autosport with 4 Hondas, Colton Herta, Alexander Rossi, Ryan Hunter-Reay, and James Hinchcliffe running under the Andretti Steinbrenner Autosport team. Yeah. So
back at home at Andretti. Good for him.
Good for Hinch. We love seeing that. Arrow McLaren, they have got the number 7 Chevrolet of Felix Rosenquist and Pato. Felix Rosenquist. I don't know why I said it that way. And the number 5 Chevrolet of Pato O'Ward. So that is cool. Chip Ganassi has 3 Hondas. Marcus Ericsson, number 8. Number 9, that guy, Scott Dixon, we just talked about. And number 10, Alex Palou. Dale Coyne Racing with Vassar Sullivan. Number 18, Honda with Ed Jones. Ed Carpenter Racing, number 21, Chevrolet with Renus VK. Myers Shank Racing out of Ohio. Number 60, Honda with Jack Harvey returning there. Rahal Letterman Lanigan, the 15 and the 30, both Hondas. 15 is Graham Rahal. The 30 is Takuma Sato. And this Team Penske, I don't know if you've heard of them. They tend to usually be pretty good. The number 2 Chevrolet of Joseph Newgarden. Number 3 Chevrolet of Scott McLaughlin, coming in hot and fresh from the Sports V8 Supercar Series down in Australia. He out of New Zealand, just like Scott Dixon. Will Power, the number 12 Chevrolet, and the number 22 Chevrolet of Simon Pagenaud. So there's also a Carlin Chevrolet number 59 that's going to have a part-time, full-time kind of sort of deal with...
Kind of like these 3 that I'm going to talk to you guys about.
Yeah, Max Chilton will be possibly running the 13 road course and street course, or the car races there. And then, Connor Daly's going to hop in the car for the other ones, I think, or something?
That might be the case, but let's run down the ones that have a part-time, full-time, or 2 part-time drivers to make up a full entry.
Yes.
So that's the number 48 at Chip Ganassi. It's a Honda driven by Jimmy Johnson, sponsored by Carvana. He's going to drive the 13 road and street courses. And Tony Kanaan is going to take on the 4 oval races. So that's kind of like your all-star lineup there. But wait, you just go to the 51 Honda of Dale Coyne Racing with Rick Ware Racing.
Yep.
And that's Romain Grosjean, who's going to be doing the 13 road course and street course races, with Pietro Fittipaldi doing the 4 oval races. So some very nice last names there. And obviously Romain, we're so glad he's alive with us.
And obviously we're glad that he's alive, and then we're also glad that he's with us in IndyCar, right? Like, yes, I'm excited to see what he can do in this series, even though I know he won't be running for a championship, but he's going to, I would be curious to see how long it takes him, or how quickly he and Jimmy Johnson are able to compete for top 5s,
absolutely
podium finishes.
There's one more person in this category too, for a confirmed ride already. That's the 20 Chevrolet of Ed Carpenter Racing. So joining the 21 of Renus VK at Ed Carpenter Racing will be Connor Daly for the 13 road and street course races. Ed Carpenter, of course, is going to take over for the 4 ovals like he always does. But my God, have you seen Connor Daly? Click on that photo I just sent you.
Okay.
This man is going to be, I mean, if you have not seen Connor Daly in 2021, do yourself a favor. I mean, he puts Jordan Taylor to shame, I think. And that's saying something with his mullet.
Connor Daly's mullet it's looking fresh. This is a big deal.
This is fresh. He is looking like a king with his mullet. There's business to the front. There is a party in the back. And
that party is leaking out, though. You can see it. Like, it's what we're saying is it's a party that definitely continues to go on. Like, he took the professional photo, the straight on headshot, and you can't contain that mullet. It didn't get photoshopped out. It's definitely there, and it's glorious. So
number 20 in your spotter card in your program, number 1 in your hearts, Connor Daly. And he is going to be my driver I'm pulling for this year, along with a couple other favorites that I have. But
you know what,
for the 15 of Graham Rahal. But
Connor Daly, like you said, is going to run in the 20 car for the road and street course races for Ed Carpenter. But in the 4 ovals that he's not running, because Ed Carpenter's going to run those, Connor Daly is going to then run with that Max Chilton car we were talking about for the Carlin
Still
number 59.
Be confirmed, but
we think that's what's going to happen. Yeah, so Max Chilton's going to be in the Carlin car to run the road and street courses, and then Connor Daly's going to run the other ones. So Connor Daly will be running full-time between 2 teams. So... Hey man, that's still something to have, and that's great. And we're glad for Connor Daly to have at least a full-time ride in every single race this year in IndyCar. But dude, absolutely. I'm ready for IndyCar to get back to having the Indy 500 at the end of May, the signal of the start of summer, like that day is for you and me normally. I don't think we're getting Monaco this year on that date.
I don't know.
last year I think we weren't going to. Right before all this happened, I think there was just something where it was before all the COVID stuff. I think it was just off of the schedule. They moved the schedule around for some reason. Yeah. We'll have to double check that on the F1 group.
Bold take. Nor do I care. I'm an F1 fan, but I don't really care about Monaco.
What? What are you talking about?
It's a pageantry. It's a pace lap.
I am so hurt.
It's a glorified pace lap. It's just Monaco.
So hurt by. I don't even want to.
I mean, it's great.
I don't even want to look at you, to be honest with you.
It's a great visual, but I mean, we're all race fans here. I mean, let's be honest.
I don't even.
It's just a parade.
No.
It's just a parade. Do I want to go to Monaco and see the parade? Absolutely. No. But do I sit there and go, "This is going to be the best race of the day"? Absolutely not.
I didn't say it's going to be the best race of the day, but what I am going to say is seeing those cars go.
Coke 600 is the second best race.
Oh, God.
And down
vomit
the road
all over you.
Is
vomit.
Monaco.
Vomit. What is wrong with you? I agree with you. The Indy 500 is the best race of that day. No questions asked. Second best race of that day is Monaco. And here's why. Because last I checked, Ayrton Senna did not go around the Charlotte Oval. He did go around Monaco. Name any famous F1 driver. Right. Yes, Kimi Räikkönen in his truck series.
In his perky jerky number 15.
Do people remember?
Kyle Busch Toyota Thunder.
Do people remember that Kimi Räikkönen had a moment in the truck series?
I hope so. Race career in NASCAR. This is my holy grail of memorabilia. If anyone out there has race used sheet metal from that perky jerky truck, DM me, find me, name your price. It is. What if you get a call and it's Kimi Räikkönen who's like, yes, hello, I have, I'm not going to do his accent, but I'm saying I have the sheet metal you want. I need funding from my F1 team. Well, I mean, I can't, I'd have to sell a lot of houses, but it is a good market. Let's put it that way. So
I wonder what would get Robin Miller more mad over there at racer.com. Would that be, because I don't know if you've read his column. I do every week, and he has this mailbag column. Robin Miller's a longtime motorsports journalist, and obviously has forgotten more about motorsports than you or I will ever know. But he has this mailbag column every week. And it's always like every person who writes in is like, hello, yes, I'm 1,000 years old. And you know what I liked? When they used to hand crank the cars. Why don't they do that anymore? And it's just, and then Robin Miller's like, well, because they've got this more advanced technology now. It's really wild. Anyway, and that's like his expert answer. And they have been so angry old man about the fact that Romain Grosjean and Jimmy Johnson are not going to run they're not going to run the Indy 500. They are so mad that these guys are like, back when AJ Foyt would flip over, he'd spit tobacco out and say, let me flip again. And they just like, if you're not lit on fire 7 times in the IndyCar season, did you even race? And it's just like, these guys have millions of dollars. They don't even have to run in the IndyCar series, and you're mad at them because they're not going to go possibly get their leg impaled by suspension equipment,
or just the fact that there are the men and women. That's why Pippa Man comes back every year. It's why Ed Carpenter comes back. It's why Buddy Lazier still comes back from time to time. There is maybe 60 human beings alive on this planet that are like, Indy 500? Yeah, I'll do that. No fear.
Well, it's not even no fear. A lot of those guys who do it and gals who do it have a reasonable and well-respected fear of that place. The difference is, for a lot of them, it's just, well, you know what? For some people, it is just, I would never not want to run this because it's part of the heritage of what I do. And I'm an IndyCar driver, and damn it, there's pride in doing that. When you're Jimmy Johnson, I don't think it's necessarily that he's afraid of it. But again, the way these articles are written sometimes, it's like, well, his stupid wife. And it's like, excuse me? Like, they don't say that, but that's the attitude. And it's like, no, I don't blame their families for saying, hey, we're okay with you still putting your life on the line in these races. We just think the Indy 500 maybe is a bit too much. I don't blame anyone for making that decision, because it's insane how fast they go around there and how flat that track is. And if you make one little mistake, or if someone else makes it, you saw, like we said, with Scott Dixon, he was inches away from having his, I don't know what would happen. That's why they have to have the halo. Because if they didn't, I mean, if they did, it wouldn't have been a problem, but he didn't on that race, and it could have been his life. So
yeah, and real quick clarification: there are probably a good 1,000 or so sprint car drivers, maybe 500 sprint car drivers that would be fine with like, oh yeah, totally, Indy 500. I do that.
We're talking about the people who have the ability to get a ride,
the money, the funding,
and the funding to do it, and
the
have
skill to go around Indy.
And I'm sure a lot of sprint car guys have that skill. It's just like we saw with Brian Clausen, who sadly lost his life in a midget accident, not even in an IndyCar accident. He ran the Indy 500 multiple times, and again, there are plenty of guys who I know could get in there and do it. It's just getting the funding, getting someone to believe in you, and then also saying, yeah, and I want to go do that. Jimmy Johnson has the funding. I don't blame Jimmy Johnson for saying that's a risk I don't need. Jimmy Johnson started his career at Watkins Glen. I mean, looking like a missile. Does anybody remember that? I mean, I know many people do. It's been shown a million times. Like, are we going to say this guy has fear? Like, what are we talking about?
He went on to win 7 championships.
It's a calculation of risk. Yeah. Is it worth it for a guy worth millions of dollars? And maybe it will be. Maybe we'll see him do it next year. But I don't blame anybody for not doing it. That's all.
Maybe he needs to see the data. Maybe he needs to go in and see the week. And I mean, he's
going to be there as a consultant the whole week, and I'm quite sure by the end of it he will probably be at a point where he says I want to do it. But again, Romain, they're literally in this column, Derek, you have to read it because there's literally a part where they're ripping Romain Grosjean like, well, I get that he just almost was lit on fire, but real racers used to get lit on fire. The next day they were working on their car and back in and it's like,
have you seen,
it's not, he had millions of dollars. What are you talking about?
Have you seen the comparison of Niki Lauda and Romain Grosjean?
I've not seen it.
It is crazy. It shows both of their burned up helmets from their accidents, and then a picture of Niki Lauda with his skin grafts and stuff at a press conference, and then Romain Grosjean walking around with a bandage on his hand. Yeah. It's insane the amount of technology that's
and that's though it's the same stupid thing. Like the people who make those arguments, they're like, these guys should be thrilled to risk their lives so I can watch it. It's like, well, number one, you don't risk your life to do this, so I'm never going to tell someone else what they should or should not do. But also, like, those arguments tend to be like, you're not a real man. Just like the arguments that were made around the time when guys were dying at New Hampshire in the Cup Series and in the Busch Series, Xfinity Series now, right? Like Adam Petty and Kenny Irwin. And, part of the issue, one of the issues was having safer barriers. They didn't have those back then.
Angle of impact.
Impact, right. The other of that was, open face helmets were still widely used in that era. And you had a lot of drivers.
Device.
And they wouldn't use the Hans device. Like you had a lot of drivers who refused to use. Dale Earnhardt Sr. sadly refused all those things. Wasn't a fan of the Hans device. Wasn't a fan of the closed face helmet, and wasn't a fan of safer barriers. Unfortunately, if we had all three of those things, we might still have Dale Earnhardt Sr. So what I'm saying is this whole like, are you tough enough to race? Well, are
Get out of here with
that. You're tough enough if you strap yourself into a race car. Most of the people who make these criticisms have never done it. I will hear it from the racers who have these criticisms because at least they do it. But the ones who are just sitting around, no. Sorry, I have no time for that. All right, switching gears, a little bit of news from the Truck Series, which I found very interesting. Did you see that Stuart Friesen and his wife, Jessica, they are both going to attempt the Bristol Truck Dirt Race, which I think is pretty cool. So Stuart Friesen comes from the world of dirt modifieds, like the big block dirt modifieds up in the Northeast. Jessica also runs those races. I believe she's also run sprint cars as well. In fact, I know she has. Talk about that in a second. Anyway, so Halmar Friesen Racing has announced that Jessica will join them, and she will run a separate truck, the number 62 Toyota Tundra, and try to make the field for that March 27th Bristol Dirt Race coming up in about 2 weeks. Stuart Friesen obviously runs the 52. So you might think, well, hey, is that the first time husband and wife have ever run in the same NASCAR race? The answer is not even close.
Really?
Not even close. Are you aware of how many times Elton Sawyer, who you remember, right? Elton Sawyer and Patty Moyes were like the first couple that did this regularly, where Patty Moyes was often in the now Xfinity Series, the Busch Series. she ran against Elton Sawyer, who ran many years in that series as well. They're both drivers. They're both racers. And she and he, both in the 90s, raced each other 58 times in the Busch Grand National Series. 58 times they ran together. And of course, we also know like Danica Patrick and Ricky Stenhouse were dating when they were in the Cup Series together. So, but like, so like actual husband and wife have run together, and it happened 30 years ago. Isn't that crazy?
Oh my gosh. Like that's insane, especially 30 years ago, that timing. I mean, yeah, I remember the name Patty Moyes.
Yeah.
And
she ran.
I didn't know she had a thing for old Elton Sawyer there.
Yeah, they were married when they ran against each other in that series. And it's cool now because do you know what Elton Sawyer's doing right now?
No.
Well, I shouldn't say what he's doing right now. What he was doing as of 2013, when I was reading an article about this earlier this week, he was the director of race team operations for Action Express Racing in the IMSA, in the Grand Am series back then, but now in IMSA.
Well, that's cool.
So here's what he's doing. He's currently the vice president officiating and technical inspection of this little series called NASCAR. So
yep. Oh, that's right.
If you enjoy the dance party that you see when they do the inspection, that's all him. That's what he's up to. So there you go.
Maybe we shouldn't get him on, and maybe we just still keep trying.
No,
to
I'd still like to talk to him.
Trying to figure out why he's Scott Speed's father. That whole thing.
Yeah, we never got Lake Speed on after that. Sorry to say. But anyway, very cool stuff. So, looking forward to Bristol Dirt. We'll have more to say about that in the coming weeks, but thought that was a nice little note. For those who are not aware of the Jessica Friesen history, Jessica used to date a guy named Tony Stewart. They broke up. Then she started dating and then eventually married Stuart Friesen, right? Unfortunately, in that incident where Tony Stewart hit, was it Kevin Ward? Was that his name? That was the sprint car driver?
Yeah. Yep.
In that incident, what you may not remember is that Jessica Friesen was actually racing in that race as a sprint car driver. She was behind that incident. She saw it from behind. So when Kevin Ward's family tried to sue Tony Stewart, she testified, and Stuart Friesen and her were both, I remember, on ESPN. They were on SportsCenter talking about this. That Tony Stewart did it on purpose, or that he made a move towards Kevin Ward and all that stuff. And, other people in the track disputed that. But what I'm saying is the Friesens were very much on the side of Tony Stewart meant to do that. And so I always thought it was weird when Stuart Friesen would run well at Eldora during the truck race. I was like, man, that's going to be awkward if Tony Stewart. Now, maybe they've since patched things up. I have no idea. But
yeah, I
don't know. Someone accuses you of, manslaughter at the very least, purposeful manslaughter. I don't know if I'd be willing to easily forget that. But anyway, that's the history of Jessica Friesen, Stuart Friesen, Tony Stewart. Now now we can move on. Yep. We promised you some World of Outlaws discussion, and we are going to do that. So let's talk about it, man, because they went out to the Rev, which is a track is that in Missouri?
Monroe, Louisiana.
Oh, Louisiana. That one's in Louisiana. Okay, I'm sorry. I know they were in Mississippi and they were in Louisiana. So, okay.
It's not the Rev for Revolutions of the Motor Engine. It's the Rev for Reverend, as far as there's to be some reverence for this track because it put on that much of a show. Yeah, it was a great show. It was a great show. David Gravel won it. Brad Sweet was second, but those two, they had such a great battle that when David Gravel pulled into victory lane, before he even did his interview, he put his hat on and all that stuff, and then he ran over to Brad Sweet's car and gave him a big high five and said that was a great race. And very cool to see the respect between those two guys who are obviously two of the best that do this. Brad Sweet, has been a champion, and David Gravel obviously is same deal. So these guys are amazing drivers, but that was a hell of a race for sure. Donnie Schatz, by the way, was finishing third in that race for what it's worth. Yeah, and also too, the sprint car community was really enjoying that race at the Rev. Craig Mintz, who's a local 410 sprint car driver. He's an Ohio 410 sprint car driver. He's an Ohio 410 sprint car driver who kicks ass, by the way. But he put on Facebook, he put, slick tracks don't produce great racing, right? No, not at all. What a show. That track was insane. You're right. And you know what? Yeah. Dude, it was really odd watching that as an Ohio dirt racing fan because I'm watching it and I'm like, this is a hell of a show. And I can see every bit of the race. And I
don't have to look through like a cloud of dust. It was amazing. It was really fun to see.
Yeah, but I mean, it was slick and rubbered in, and I mean, it was
still great racing. I don't know what they did to that track, but
I think another sprint car driver posted in that same post, like, hey, I'm all fine for a slick main, but a slick hot lap, that's where it's a little crazy. I don't want to ice rink for a hot lap.
Well, true enough.
Which is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
But man, I just, it's great to see the Outlaws out and running all across the country.
Well, here's the thing, man. So David Gravel continued a streak. Do you know about the streak?
No.
That is now 6 straight races to start this season in the World of Outlaws with different winners each night.
Yes, that is true.
Sheldon Haudenschild
being like 14 like full-time drivers. That's pretty.
Yeah, right. I mean, almost half the field has won a race in the first 6 races, and of the full-time guys. That's pretty impressive, right? So Sheldon Haudenschild, he won the night before, which was great to see him. But also Casey Kane ran really well in both these runs. He was there. He earned his first Outlaw top 5 since 2002 with a 23rd to 5th place run at the Magnolia track, or not Magnolia. That was the one they went to. Yeah, it was Magnolia. That was in Mississippi. All right. So yeah, that's where Sheldon got his win. So if you are into the World of Outlaws right now, I think you're seeing some of the best racing we have ever seen in that series. And I certainly think it's some of the best racing going on right now anywhere on the planet. So
yeah. And I mean, the thing that's cool, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is not, I'm not going to say that 10,000 is chump change. It's not. But realizing that they put this show on and David Gravel ended up netting $4,000 more than Brad Sweet, who walked away with $6,000 after that race. I mean, it's just so cool that like they're making a show so amazing, and it's able to be affordable for fans to go out and see. It's able to be, sustainable because it's in it's just like, I love their. It's also cool to kind of see Casey Kane's number next to a $2,300 check. Like,
yeah, right. It is kind of cool.
I mean, he would finish.
It's also cool to see the number on the check, just because we never get to see that in NASCAR anymore. We don't know how much they win.
Back in the day, you see a 15th place at Kansas get $230,000 check.
Yeah,
I mean, no kidding. It's a different time, right?
Yeah. But that's what makes it cool, man. It's grassroots. Yeah. It's fun, and obviously these guys, they wouldn't do it if it wasn't worth it to them for whatever reason. Oh, yeah. So. But yeah, I mean, you got a lot of good racing going on right now in the World of Outlaws. And by the way, we talked about it when we talked with some of our sprint car guys. We're actually going to have another sprint car guest coming up for you later this week. Stick around for that; it'll be a lot of fun. But the World of Outlaws Bristol Throwdown coming up in the end of April 22nd through the 24th. That's going to be multiple nights of racing at Bristol, and the speed should be insane. $25,000 payout for the winner on April 24th. With a 25-lap World of Outlaws sprint car feature race. That's going to be a blast. Honestly, if I had a chance, I don't think I will, if I had a chance to get down to Bristol to watch any of the action going on in the dirt in the next month, I would go to the World of Outlaws show over the Cup Series. I mean, even though the Cup Series is going to be historic and all that stuff, and that's fine.
Historic and all that stuff, but if you want to watch racing.
Well, on the dirt, yeah. I mean, the Cup guys put a good show on Bristol. It's just probably on dirt. I have no idea what the hell that's going to look like.
Best suit, or probably the series that's going to be put on best show, probably going to be the dirt late models. But as far as
that's true too.
Because,
they look really good in the testing. I've been watching some of the testing. By the way, if you don't follow Bristol on Facebook, they've been doing Facebook Live whenever there's been testing there. So I've watched a lot of the late models going around that track, and it looks pretty cool, man. I can't believe it's weird seeing it, because the track's different now than when they raced it last time on dirt. But man, it's something. It is something to see what those cars are doing. I can't wait to see what the sprint cars look like, even though it's going to be crazy.
The snow and the rain stays away. That's the big
absolutely
big X factor there.
Absolutely. All right, couple things here. We'll get out of here. Do not forget. I saw some people complaining. Couldn't believe this. Saw some people complaining about the ticket prices for Sebring this weekend, saying $70. I don't know. That's a lot of money. $70 is a lot of money. Not everybody can afford it. I get that. But if you're talking about how much it costs to go to a race, you get 12 hours of racing at Sebring for $70. What are we talking about? Like, I've never heard someone complain about IMSA ticket prices. I don't understand that. I mean, you get to go watch. I would pay $70 to just go stand and look at a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, a couple Porsches, right? Like, just to stand there and look at them, let alone watch them start up and run around a track for a few minutes. And then I get to watch them for 12 hours do that with the best drivers in the world in these cars, or some of the best drivers in the world in these cars. And like you said, yes, 5 classes of racing. What are we, 12 hours of that? What are we talking about? Yes, that's worth the money. I can't believe people think that.
And they do have practice, and they do have all those.
Oh, yeah, so you can watch all that stuff too. And I think it's for the whole weekend, it's $120. The entire weekend, it's $120.
And I guarantee you, part of that money, you can definitely roam around and meet the drivers.
Oh,
like, you're not like, for sure. With COVID, with the bubble, there might be that whole thing. But
but if it wasn't for that, you would definitely be able to meet drivers.
Yeah, you'd be definitely. I mean, it's just like, I mean, what do you want here?
Yeah. So it's great, man. It's really great. Also, so IMSA, that's this weekend. You got 12 hours of Sebring. Fantastic. And then NASCAR goes to one of, in my mind, their best tracks, Trucks, Xfinity Series, and the Cup Series, all at Atlanta. And don't forget, they are talking about repaving and reprofiling the Atlanta Speedway. Okay. They are talking about, Marcus Smith has said this, Speedway Motorsports president, CEO, they want to bring in a $1 billion casino and entertainment complex built next to the track in Hampton, Georgia. And so they haven't officially done that yet, as far as I know, but they want to. But they have said, and Dale Jr. has said, if they do this reconfiguration of Atlanta, they would bring it back to its old configuration, which its old configuration is more of a homestead shape. That's what Atlanta used to be. Like when you and I were little kids, that's what Atlanta was. They redid it in 1997 into a quad oval, which is what you've got at Charlotte and Texas and all these other tracks. But that before they did that, it was just a like paperclip, more or less, just a big one, like Homestead. Dale Jr. has said that's what they need to do when they go back. So all I'm saying is whenever they go to repave this track, it's going to be different. Probably going to be good. But if you like Atlanta as it currently is, get your ass to the track and go check it out. Because I'm really debating. If I don't go now, I'm probably going to go in the summer because I think they go back there in June or July. I got to go for one of those weekends. I
mean, it's one of those things we got to sit here and chart out, okay, what can we do and what races are we going to see? And that's what I hope everyone's going to do. I mean, I think we're all vaccinated by May. That's the plan. So, or anyone that wants one can get one. So I hope you guys are making the decisions and getting that out there, and we'll be back to normal and being fools at the track in no time.
Yep, absolutely right. Well, I can't wait for it. I hope you guys have a great weekend. We will have another podcast up before the weekend with a special guest, so stick around for that. And, of course, we'll have a bigger preview of the Atlanta racing. Till then, stay safe and stay staggered.